This is the IELTS listening test. You will hear a number of different recordings, and you will have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have the chance to check your work. All the recordings will be played once only. The test is in 4 parts. Pause. At the end, you will be given 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet. Now turn to Part 1. Part 1. In this part, you will hear a telephonic conversation, and based on that you will get 10 questions. First, you have some time to read questions 1 to 6. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 6.
Good morning. Thank you for calling Meadows Day Holiday Rentals. My name is Emily. How can I help you today?
Hello. I'm planning a family holiday for next month, and I'm interested in booking a cottage somewhere quiet, ideally in the countryside. Could you help me with that?
Absolutely. May I take your name first?
Sure, it's Rachel Simmons.
Thank you, Ms. Simmons. Can I ask which dates you're planning to travel?
Yes, we're looking at the second week of August, probably arriving on the 10th and leaving on the 17th.
Let me just check our availability for that week. Pause. Yes, we have a few properties available. Could I ask how many people you'll be traveling with?
It's for myself, my husband, and our 2 children, ages 7 and 10.
Got it. So, a party of 4. Do you have a preference for the number of bedrooms? That makes sense. Would you prefer a detached cottage or something within a holiday complex with shared facilities?
We'd prefer a standalone cottage, somewhere peaceful. A garden or outdoor space would be great too.
Okay, I have a few listings that match that description. One is Rosewood Cottage, located near the village of Little Ashby, just a 5-minute drive from the coast. It's a 2-bedroom, single-story cottage with a private garden, barbecue area, and even a small pond.
That sounds lovely. Is it suitable for children?
Yes, absolutely. There's a fenced garden area, and the pond is shallow and safe, but we always advise parental supervision.
Of course. What's the cost for the week?
The total for 7 nights would be £740, inclusive of utilities, cleaning fees, and taxes. There's also a £100 refundable damage deposit, which we return within 5 days after checkout.
That's within our budget. Are pets allowed?
Unfortunately, Rosewood Cottage doesn't allow pets, as the owners are allergic. However, we do have other options if you're planning to bring one.
No, that's fine. We're not bringing any pets. Is there parking?
Yes, it has a private driveway with space for 2 vehicles.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions 7 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 7 to 10.
And what kind of amenities does the cottage have?
It's quite well equipped. The kitchen includes a dishwasher, microwave, oven, fridge freezer, and a coffee machine. There's also free Wi-Fi, a smart TV, and a small collection of board games for families.
That's excellent. How do we check in?
Check-in is contactless. We'll send you a code for the key box next to the door, and you can let yourselves in anytime after 3 p.m. on the day of arrival.
Great. And checkout time?
By 10 a.m. on the day of departure. We ask that you strip the beds and leave the towels in the laundry basket. You don't need to clean. Our team handles that.
Understood. Do you provide linens and towels?
Yes, all bed linens and towels are provided as standard.
Good. How do I go ahead and book the property?
I can take your booking over the phone now. I'll just need your email address and a payment method. We accept all major cards. You'll receive a confirmation by email with all the property details, directions, and the key code.
That sounds perfect. I'll give you my email now. It's a.simmons84@gmail.com.
Got it. Just to double-check, arrival on August 10th, departure on the 17th, for 2 adults and 2 children, at Rosewood Cottage in Little Ashby. Total cost, £740 plus £100 deposit.
Correct.
Great. I'll process that now and email your booking confirmation within the hour.
Thank you, Emily. You've been very helpful.
You're very welcome. Enjoy your holiday, Miss Simmons.
That is the end of part 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers. Part 2. In this part, you will hear a monologue. A person is giving an orientation to a group of people. First, you have some time to read questions 11 to 15. Listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Ashbridge History Museum. My name is Daniel Hartley, and I'll be your guide for the next hour. I'm delighted to see so many of you here, whether you're visiting for the first time or returning after a previous trip. Let's begin with a little background about this site. The Ashbridge building was originally constructed in 1882 and served as a railway station for almost 5 decades. After it was decommissioned in the 1930s, it was nearly demolished until a group of local historians campaigned to preserve it. In 1975, it reopened as a museum showcasing local history and railway heritage. The museum is divided into 3 main sections. On the ground floor, you'll find the Industrial Hall, which houses a large collection of machinery, tools, and photographs from the town's manufacturing era. Upstairs is the Heritage Gallery, where you can explore life-sized room reconstructions, including a Victorian-era kitchen and a cobbler's workshop. And finally, just outside is the Signal Yard, where we keep original railway signal boxes and a restored passenger carriage. Our most popular exhibit is the interactive timeline wall, which allows you to scroll through 150 years of Ashbridge's history. It's a touchscreen display installed in the central corridor and was updated last year with additional photographs and audio clips from residents. Every Wednesday afternoon at 2 p.m, we host a talk by a guest historian. These cover topics from local legends to industrial innovations and last around 45 minutes. If you're interested, you can reserve a seat at the front desk or through our website. Photography is allowed throughout the museum, but we kindly ask that you don't use flash, especially in the upstairs gallery where sensitive artifacts are displayed. Our lighting system is specifically calibrated to prevent damage to textiles and documents. There's a gift shop near the exit, which stocks books, souvenirs, and handcrafted items by local artists. And if you're feeling hungry, the Old Station Cafe serves lunch, snacks, and coffee all day. The cafe is accessible directly from the lobby or through the rear garden. We'll take a short break in the cafe now And in the second half, I'll share the feedback we've received from past visitors and what changes we've implemented recently.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions 16 to 20. Now, listen and answer questions 16 to 20.
Welcome back! In this section, I'll talk about some of the suggestions and criticisms we've received over the past year and what we've done in response. One recurring piece of feedback was about the audio guides. Several visitors found them difficult to operate and complained about the outdated narration. We've now introduced a new system with touch-free devices, clearer navigation, and multiple language options, including Spanish and Mandarin. The Heritage Gallery layout also came under scrutiny. People found it confusing to follow, as it didn't have a clear beginning or end. To fix that, we've added numbered route markers and a printed floor guide to help visitors navigate in a logical sequence. Another major point was accessibility. Some guests had trouble using the staircase to the upper floor, especially elderly visitors or those with mobility issues. While we can't alter the external structure of this historic building, we've now installed a lift at the rear entrance that connects all floors discreetly. The children's activity area was another area we wanted to improve. While popular, it was previously located in a tight corner near the reception, which often got noisy. We've now moved it to a newly refurbished room adjacent to the industrial hall. It's larger, better ventilated, and includes craft tables, puzzles, and interactive learning panels. Lastly, several schools that visited the museum mentioned they wanted more structured content. So we've worked with local teachers to develop curriculum-aligned worksheets, which can be used during or after a visit. These are free to download from our website, and printed copies are also available at the front desk. As always, we value your opinions. If you'd like to share your thoughts, there's a feedback form near the exit and an online version accessible through the museum app. That concludes our briefing. Feel free to explore on your own, and if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask any of our staff. Enjoy the rest of your visit to the Ashbridge History Museum.
That is the end of part 2. You have half a minute to check your answers. Part 3. Part 3 is an academic discussion between a student and a professor, or between two students. You need to listen to their conversation and answer questions based on that. First, you now have some time to read questions 21 to 25. Now, listen and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi Ethan. Come on in. I've just finished reviewing your draft proposal on coral reef recovery. You've chosen quite a fascinating topic.
Thanks, Professor Allen. I'm excited about it, though I know it's a complex issue. I wanted to focus on post-bleaching regeneration, particularly in the Great Barrier Reef.
A wise choice. It is both timely and important. What angle are you planning to take, ecological, chemical, or socio-environmental?
I've decided to approach it from an ecological standpoint. I want to study how different coral species respond to stress and how quickly they recover, especially in relation to algae competition and fish presence.
Excellent. There is a lot of existing literature, but plenty of scope for original contribution. What will your methodology look like?
I plan to analyze existing datasets from reef monitoring stations and also conduct in-person fieldwork over a 3-week period. I'll be working with a conservation NGO that has access to 3 reef zones, each in a different state of health.
That is very promising. Do you plan to compare species diversity across these zones?
Exactly. I'll be measuring coral coverage, species diversity, and fish abundance. I'll also document water temperature and pH levels to look for any trends.
Great. You might consider using Quadrat-T sampling and underwater visual census methods.
That's what I had in mind. I'm still finalizing the sampling intervals. I was considering every 10 meters along a 100-meter transect, but that might be too dense.
That does sound a bit heavy. Try every 20 meters at LL give you good coverage while keeping the data manageable. Have you thought about your control variables?
Yes. I'll record depth, light exposure, and human activity levels like boat traffic or snorkeler presence.
Good thinking. And for your literature review, are you covering bleaching events from both El Niño cycles and long-term climate stress?
I've included both. I also found a 2021 study that mapped coral adaptation using genetic markers. I want to tie in resilience theory to explain why certain patches recover more effectively.
Impressive. Just don't overload your report with too much theory. Focus on how it supports your field observations.
Will do. Speaking of the report, I'm a little worried about the data analysis part. I'm not great with statistical software.
That is not uncommon. For this project, you could use Excel for basic descriptive stats, but I recommend using R for more detailed visualizations. It has great coral-specific plotting packages.
I've never used R, but I'll look into it. Is there a campus workshop?
Yes. The Data Lab runs a beginner S session every Tuesday. You should sign up for next week S1.
I will, thanks. One last thing, I'm not sure how to handle ethical approval for this kind of work. Do I need it?
Since you're observing marine life without intervention and working with a registered NGO, you likely won't need full ethical clearance. But do include a paragraph in your methodology explaining your compliance with environmental research standards.
That's a relief. I'll include that section in my next draft.
Good. Now, how are you doing with the report structure?
I've outlined it: intro, literature review, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion. I'm trying to stay within the 4,000-word limit.
That is the right format. Don't forget the appendix for your raw data and sampling maps.
Already working on that. I'm using Google Earth images with markers for the sampling sites.
Excellent. It sounds like you're on the right track.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions 26 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 26 to 30.
Have you thought about how you'll approach the presentation component?
Yes, I was just about to ask you about that. We're required to do a 10-minute presentation, right?
That is correct. 10 minutes. Plus 5 minutes of QA. Focus on 1 or 2 key insights from your fieldwork rather than trying to cover everything.
I plan to highlight the unexpected finding that fish density was actually higher in the moderately damaged reef zone than the healthy one. It might indicate species adaptation or changing food sources.
That is a compelling angle. Use that as your narrative hook.
Should I include video footage? I have some short underwater clips from the dive team.
Definitely. Just make sure the clips are short, 30 seconds max each, and you have subtitles or captions explaining what's on screen.
Good point. I'm also preparing a couple of graphs comparing coral cover across the 3 sites. Should I explain the stats?
Briefly. Just mention the key trends and what they suggest. No need to go deep into the statistical formulas.
Got it. One last question, when's the deadline to submit slides?
All slides must be submitted via the online portal by Wednesday at 4 p.m. the day before presentations start.
I'll make sure to upload them early. Thanks so much, Professor Allen.
You're welcome. Ethan, I am looking forward to seeing your findings.
That is the end of part 3. Now you have 30 seconds to check your answers. Part 4. This part is a monologue where a person gives a seminar on a topic. You need to listen and answer all the questions at once. First, you have some time to read questions 31 to 40. Now, listen and answer questions 31 to 40.
When people think of agriculture, they often focus on soil, water, seeds, and equipment. But an often overlooked element is the insect world, which plays a crucial role in supporting, sustaining, and even damaging agricultural systems. In today's lecture, we'll explore the various functions insects perform in farming, some beneficial, others detrimental, and how modern agriculture manages this delicate balance. To begin with the most well-known benefit, pollination. Many crops rely on insect pollinators for fruit and seed production. Bees, especially the European honeybee, are responsible for pollinating around 75% of the world's food crops. Crops like apples, almonds, blueberries, and cucumbers would see significantly lower yields without insect pollinators. But it's not just honeybees. Bumblebees, solitary bees, butterflies, and even some beetles contribute to this vital ecological service. In fact, bee populations are under increasing stress due to habitat loss, pesticide use, disease, and climate change. This has prompted some farmers to install beehives or plant wildflower strips around their fields to support pollinator health. Pollination by hand has even been attempted in some areas where bee populations have collapsed, though it's labor-intensive and not scalable. Another beneficial group of insects is natural predators, which help manage pest populations. Ladybugs, for instance, are well known for feeding on aphids, which damage crops by sucking plant sap. Similarly, lacewings and hoverflies are predators of various soft-bodied insects. Farmers practicing integrated pest management, or IPM, often introduce or protect these predators as part of a broader pest control strategy. Parasitic wasps are also incredibly valuable. These tiny insects lay their eggs inside or on pest species, such as caterpillars or whiteflies. When the larvae hatch, they consume the host, effectively reducing pest numbers. This form of biological control has been used successfully in greenhouses, orchards, and open-field crops. On the other hand, not all insects are friends to agriculture. Some are major pests that can destroy entire crops or reduce their marketability. For example, locusts are notorious for forming large swarms that devour vegetation across vast regions. A single swarm can contain billions of insects and cover hundreds of square kilometers, posing serious threats to food security. Other harmful insects include bollworms, which attack cotton plants, and Colorado potato beetles, which, as the name suggests, are destructive to potato crops. In tropical areas, stem borers are a common pest for maize and sugarcane. Farmers have traditionally relied on chemical pesticides to manage these pests, but this has led to environmental problems, pesticide resistance, and harm to non-target species. To address this, newer methods are being explored. One such method is the use of pheromone traps, which use chemical signals to lure pests into traps, reducing their population without affecting other organisms. Another is crop rotation, where farmers change the type of crop grown in a field each season to break pest breeding cycles. Insects also contribute to agriculture through decomposition. Certain species like dung beetles and soil-dwelling flies break down animal waste and decaying plant material. This process enriches the soil by returning nutrients and improving its structure. Dung beetles, in particular, play a vital role in livestock farming systems, where they help manage waste and reduce the spread of parasites. In recent years, interest has grown in the potential of insects as a food source, both for humans and livestock. Insects like black soldier fly larvae are being farmed commercially as high-protein feed for poultry and fish. This form of insect farming uses organic waste, like vegetable scraps, as feed, creating a closed-loop system that supports sustainability. Meanwhile, crickets and mealworms are gaining attention as edible insects for human consumption, particularly in protein bars and snack foods. Advocates argue that insect-based protein uses less land and water than traditional livestock and produces fewer greenhouse gas emissions. However, cultural perceptions still present a barrier in many countries. Insects are also being used in crop monitoring. Researchers and tech startups have developed tools that combine insect sensors, drones, and artificial intelligence to detect pest infestations early. For example, smart traps can send real-time data on insect types and numbers, allowing farmers to act before infestations spread. This approach reduces the need for blanket pesticide application and supports more targeted, data-driven decision-making. Lastly, there's the topic of genetic modification and insect management. Scientists have begun developing genetically modified insects, such as sterile male mosquitoes or pest-resistant crop varieties. While controversial, these technologies could revolutionize pest control and reduce chemical usage if proven safe and effective.
That is the end of part 4. You have now 30 seconds to check your answers. You have now 10 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet.